Yeah, no, I just removed it. We are live. Hello, everyone. We are here with Rick Endrulat, president of Virtual Causeway, and he's just getting started with his presentation about Outbound isn't dead. You just suck at it. So I'll just start the screen sharing and remove myself from the video.
All right. Hey, thank you very much. Thanks for joining. Am I good to get going now, Massimo? Yes. All right. I will assume that you can hear me. So, hey, welcome. My name is Rick Endrulat. I am the president of a company called Virtual Causeway, and we are based out of Waterloo, Ontario, Canada, and just outside Toronto. And have been doing this for a while now. So I started Virtual Causeway way back in 2001. And interesting fact, I guess, is that we've generated millions of leads for our clients over the years through various means from a demand generation standpoint. So we certainly have worked with a lot of large brands as well as small and emerging brands and helped them generate leads and help them support their sales and marketing process over the years. Other interesting fact that you might see over my shoulder, there's a guitar hanging off the wall, but I am a bit of a guitar nerd. And one of my colleagues put this slide together. So they added the wannabe rock star thing. So we'll see about that. But anyways, I ran a company and I helped a company called School of Rock come to Canada, about 10 years ago now, and build that brand in Canada. So that is me. So the origin, when I was asked to be part of this and to help discuss, hot topics within sales and marketing. The interesting thing that I found was, earlier this year, I actually went and I attended a B2B conference run by Forrester, the big research firm. And I went and I visited a bunch of different vendors. And the funny thing is that, two in particular that are specific companies that do outbound technology. So they support teams that are doing sales engagement and sales development. Two of them in particular, I went and spoke with and asked for somebody to follow up to do a demo. And they just did a horrible job of the follow-up. And that really made me think this is something that we really need to address, because outbound and any kind of sales follow-up and sales activities, something you need to do well to move people through the sales process. So that got me thinking. And then, of course, overall, you hear all this stuff that, is outbound dead. Every year there's something that's quote unquote dead. So, digital's dead, or email is dead, or forms are dead, or whatever. So every year it seems like something like that comes out. And the common mistake that I see, especially with outbound, and this is based on a conversation I had with a few of my clients, but the common mistake that outbound marketing is, it's not dead, but a lot of companies just haven't changed or evolved, and they were looking at outbound the same way they've always looked at it, and it's just not working anymore. So they might be utilizing outdated techniques. Of course, it might seem like it's a lot more expensive than inbound. So because of that, they look at it in a different way. And then, there's such a focus on content marketing right now that a lot of marketers will focus on that and say that they'd rather be doing that than outbound. And not that content marketing doesn't have a role. It's just that, it needs to be done in conjunction with, not instead of. So content marketing isn't the only way, but some marketers do view this as being the be all end all. And of course, now that events are back on, as we're coming out of this pandemic, as events are back on, how is outbound helping or hindering with the process? Once again, going back to that example I had earlier this year. So that's the origin. That's where kind of the concept of this came from. So in short, really, it's not, outbound isn't dead. A lot of companies just really suck at it, which I hate, because there's such an opportunity to do something really well with it, and they might not focus on the right things. Especially when we're looking at, and as I'm talking about this, once again, I'm talking about kind of B2B complex sales. So that means that it's either a longer process, or there is something complex about the selling process. It could be the number of decision makers, it could be the price point, but there's something complex in terms of the sale. So outbound becomes very important in that case. A lot of people think inbound marketing is inexpensive or free, and it's not. I mean, there's a lot that goes into it. And when we're talking about content, we're talking about building content that's relevant in the buyer's journey. you need to be really, really, really targeted, and you need to have a good understanding of your ICP. And different pieces of content for different parts of the journey are really important. So it's definitely not free, and it's something that you need to think about. One thing that's really interesting is that a lot of people forget that you need to be able to combine digital and human interactions. So that means, especially once again, if we're talking about a complex sale, you've got an actual salesperson involved at some point that's having a conversation, some sort of bi-directional conversation with your prospects. And because of that, you need to understand, where does that fit in the process? Sure, that's farther down in the journey, that's farther down in the funnel, but it's something that needs to happen, and there needs to be some sort of a bi-directional conversation. So of course, there's the whole concept of understanding how you integrate both inbound and outbound, and integrate digital and human interactions. Of course, ABM is something that everybody talks about. And now we're talking about ABS, account-based selling. And with the whole ABM and ABS world, it's much more important to be able to have some sort of outbound motion that allows you to target and be very specific and actually customize some content. So that's really important when you're looking at that. And then, of course, helping to guide the buyer's journey as they're going through the process. The cool thing about outbound, if you do it right, is that you can actually get instant results and get that feedback loop really short, and understand very quickly what your customers or your prospects are thinking, what they're saying, and how you move them through the process. So in practice, really you need to worry about, thinking about integrating your marketing efforts. So you can't just rely on one kind of catch-all tactic. Your outbound is failing if you execute using only these old methods. A lot of people still think outbound is just telephone-based, for example. And it's not just tele, it's a bunch of different things. It could be email, it could be other kind of outreach, and it could be digital, or it could be human. But the key is that it's more, and it's something that's integrated, where you're actually being very targeted, and especially in an ABM or ABS motion, you're being very targeted, and you actually have some bespoke content that's very specific to that prospect as well as that account. And then you're figuring out how you actually can provide the right information to them and move them through the journey. And by integrating, of course, you stop lagging results, and you start getting some of these better results in terms of based on the shorter, or this more closed feedback loop, and the shorter process in terms of actually being able to make changes to the messaging. You can actually get really good results, and you can get higher results in terms of your connects than some other ways. In terms of targeting, once again, targeting and predictive, you can marry those with outbound and ABM. I say this here because account-based marketing is such a huge part of this. And of course, now we're talking about account-based selling, which in my opinion, we've been talking about for 10 or 20 or 30 years, but at least it's coming back forefront now. We're talking about account-based selling and getting the sales folks involved and the sales team involved in this targeted account-based activities. And of course, really it's all about testing and validating and trying things out. So with outbound, you do have a little bit more of a luxury to specifically try out different campaigns, try out different messaging, get that feedback. If it's not working, try something different. But the key is that test, validate, try it out, build that feedback loop, build the cycle. When outbound's done right, especially in a complex sale, you can really get some great results in terms of, customizing your messaging, supporting your ABM, ABS motion, as well as, really building that combination of digital and human touch points, because that is the key, I think, when you're getting any kind of outbound motion, is that you need to be able to combine and make sure that it's an integrated kind of process. And you don't want to rely on just one catch-all tactic. But the key is, as always, with anything you're doing in marketing, test, validate, see if you need to make changes, keep doing it. Because of my my love of music, I thought I'd pick a little quote here that seemed to make sense. Once again, all about testing and trying things out. The more you do from an outbound standpoint and testing different campaigns, the little bit got more and more, and then keep trying to get a little bit better. So always trying to improve, always trying to see what you can do, and always trying to figure out how you can constantly get that feedback loop. So in terms of your outbound activities, you're actually generating some great feedback that you can take back to marketing, take back to sales, and really get a good integrated approach in terms of your account-based marketing and account-based selling. activities. Massimo, that's the end of the slides that I had.
Awesome. Thank you, Rick. That was super insightful. I have to admit, I was one of those inbound marketer who was all about content marketing, content marketing.
Yeah.
Let's not do outbound.
Yeah, well, I wasn't saying that specifically about you, but I was. I know that's your background too. And the key is not that there's not a place for it. It's just you can't ignore some aspects of the overall marketing mix, right? I mean, it's important to have both, right?
Actually, doing outbound, I got to thinking, but actually, content marketing and outbound should actually work very close together because one empowers the other. I think content marketing, when done right, has a big branding power, which makes people that will receive the outbound message way more likely to answer. And also, it provides you a lot of content if you want to do outbound for more top of the funnel, middle of the funnel activities for lead gen and not going directly for a sale. Question for you. Go ahead, sorry.
I was just going to say, the key is getting the right piece of content to the right person at the right time in the process, right? And sometimes that is purely inbound, and it's something that's driven on their side. Other times that requires you to be doing that from an outbound standpoint and doing it at a very targeted point in their buying journey. So it's a matter of, figuring out how both content marketing and outbound can work in conjunction to help move people through the process.
Absolutely. Question for you while we wait to see if there are other questions for the audience. I see there is a fellow guitarist in the comments that is listening right now. My question is, there is a lot of activity in tooling around outbound marketing. In the last period, there is an explosion of new tools that are coming out, whatever is for targeting or doing the outbound. If you had to hire someone internally or hire an agency and you only had to pick one, what is more important in outbound? The capacity of doing great copywriting or technical skills to use all the tools that are out there? Which one would you pick?
Well, that's an interesting question. I think so. Maybe I'll answer it in a kind of a weird sort of way here. I think that sometimes it's tough finding, in terms of content development, and somebody who can write good content and develop good content for your organization. A lot of times that's very tough to find, and especially find somebody that can actually do it in the right way where it's talking to your ICP. I think that because, in terms of outbound tools, both from a technology standpoint, and even companies like ours that do outbound services, a lot of times you might be able to find an outsourced partner there that might be able to help you out. There's so many things changing on the technology side that you can certainly find somebody that can help you in terms of what you're doing for outbound. And then having that internal resource that can help you with the content, then to actually support those outbound efforts, I think is really important. So, for me personally, finding somebody that's really good at that content piece and able to really develop some great content that can resonate. I mean, I know somebody else is doing a session right now on resonance, and finding something that can actually resonate with your ICP and with your target market is really important, because then, once you have the piece of content, then a lot of times the outbound part of it is really just very procedural. It's making sure that you understand you've got the right process set up. There are different outbound sequences that could be both from a technology standpoint or from, a people standpoint. And it's, once you have the great content and you have a really good handle on your ICP, then it's just a matter of basically plugging it into the system and letting it go. And that's where there are companies, there's technology vendors, as well as, services firms that can actually do that for you.
Totally agree. Being in marketing, sorry, and product, as you can guess, I get a certain level of messages on LinkedIn for outsourced development or SEO link building. I have to admit, like the one that were not clearly scripted outbound messages, plain template, but had a great hook at the beginning were the only one that I really read.
We have a question from my pet peeve is those. I mean, you can tell when you get those LinkedIn messages that are from somebody that it's a template that came from their sales engagement tool.
Yeah.
And you get the same one with a few different words, changed here and there, and you get the same one. And the minute that you respond, then all of a sudden you get another scripted, piece of content. And that just drives me nuts because there's so much noise out there right now that if you are using outbound as a way to reach your prospects, you need to make sure that, you capitalize on those contacts when you have them, because you have so few opportunities now to engage with prospects that you have to make sure that the content and that the actual engagement is actually working and it's effective.
Yeah, absolutely. We have a question from Douglas Grant. How do you see ABM informing outbound marketing to help it be more effective?
So sorry, I missed the first half of that. How do you see
ABM informing outbound marketing
to
help it be more effective?
Yeah, and I honestly, I think that ABM is something that we should all be thinking about no matter what. I mean, so a lot of people talk about ABM specific marketing, but for us, over the years, I mean, I started off working for an enterprise software company in the 90s, and we didn't call it ABM, but basically that's what we were doing. We were targeting very specific accounts, and we're targeting different profiles of accounts, and then developing the messaging and the process that made sense for them. So ABM, from an outbound standpoint, I think is key, because you need to determine, what's your ICP, and then you have very specific account-based messaging that you need to get out there that's bespoke and that is very customized to that target market. And then you can plug that into your outbound sequences and your outbound motion. And of course, then getting that feedback from your outbound, especially when you get to the point where you actually have a live person that's having a conversation, getting that feedback back and actually understanding, where's this account at? There's so many different buyers within the buying process, and there's so many demand units within the accounts that, it's a lot more complex, that you can't just leave it up to a technology to get that context. There's a lot of human work and human interaction that needs to happen. And I think it's really important from the ABM standpoint that when you do use outbound, you're bringing that information back between sales and marketing, and as a team, you're approaching those accounts, and then you're actually able to be effective. You get some great feedback, and then you can actually change your messaging and change your content depending on what you know about the account.
Great. So we are at time. Rick, there is another question for you in the comments. We don't have time to read it, but if you can stick around and maybe want to answer it in the comments, that would be awesome. Thank you, everyone. We'll be back in 3 minutes. Rick, thank you so much for doing the session.
Yeah, thank you. It's fun.